code. These are our model code, and went out to Lowe's and bought some material, and it's a little bit different than what I actually have. It is going to be 24 inches long. It's 7¼ inches thick as far as wide, and the thickness is 0.6 for an average. So I'm going to draw in them definitions just a little bit. Everything else fits fine. I'll use the center of the material for the offset. This is just basically telling me that I need to recalculate everything. So there's my board. This is what I'll have left of my board after I get done cutting on it. And so when I do my pieces out here, that's really what I'll be doing there. So this code, this layer is the master layer, and then this creates these signs as I go along, and it'll create these using the vector tool to get down here, plate production tool. Okay, I'll select that right there, and then go to the plate production tool. This is 24 inches, 7¼ inches. It remembers these from your settings. And then you set your margins in so that it'd be about right. I'm going to be holding this down with a washer and screw kind of a deal. And I may bring that in just a little bit just to so that it fits. So let me go ahead and change that. I'm going to go ahead and change this thing and bring it down at this box right here. I'm going to select everything here and bring it down and resize it. Go over here to set object size, and we're going to scale items individually, scale selection, and we're going to scale just this one right here. Okay, so I want it to go in and not quite be that. Let's make it 6.5. And we can still go. It's 23 inches. That still gives us that setup there. So that's our new setup, our new cut. I'll need to bring our setting up a little bit and apply that. And click close. So there we are here. Okay, that is our original. That's our original vector that I just basically used on there, so that thing was on there all the time. I'm going to go ahead and remove these down just a little bit, and hold the shift key to click both of them. Use the down arrow key down and situate them about so. And what I plan on doing is drilling a hole down here and feed a deal and put a knot in there so that it makes a nice deal on that. Okay, so this, okay, I'll tell you what, let's do, let's just move the whole thing up just a hair. Maybe put it in about right there. And that looks good. Okay, so we've got, our sign made up, brought it into the material thickness of the material. I brought in my lines, kind of reduced it back down. Now I need to go in here and recalculate all the tool paths. So we'll go over here to the tool paths, and we'll tag that up there in the corner. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and get rid of everything that's not showing up. And we're going to tag these 4 or 5 because these are original tool paths, and the rest of these I'm going to delete. So we'll click on it, right click here, click delete, click all invisible, and that cleans all the tool paths out of there. So I just have the original that are on this one layer, and then I'm going to do the same thing with this layer here. Delete invisible, and delete the data. So now all I really have set is basically this information that's got my import information, and it's ready to go. So I've got all my tool paths here. I'm going to go ahead and recalculate all of them so that they're right. Okay. And so all my tool paths are still corrected, and they've been brought into the position to where everything's going to calculate just right. So that's all good to go. And the next thing to do would be go here and go to the plate production tool. And this is where the size of my machine is 24 inches, 7/4, and my plate size is 23 by 6.5, which is this field right here to this field right here. And then my left margin, which I figured about 3/8 of an inch off to that. So that's all good. And I just have one plate, and I'm going to create the tool pass. And this is my information, and I have a number of plates that I'm going to input, and we're going to you got alert, clean, honest. This is a data engrave. I imported this from this file and put it in there, and then I assign my variables to that, and they're using a comma delimited, and it's going to go ahead and calculate that, and it's going to go ahead and create all of the tool paths for that on the codes for this. And we'll click close, and then you look at sheet 1, and there we are again. It's not working. Oh my goodness, what is going on here? And I had my data for my plate production in a different place, so we're going to import this information from this file, and there's our deal. And we're going to calculate the code text, and we're going to assign that to field 0. And we'll assign that to field 1, and the code to field 0. And then we're going to calculate. See how she did there. And it's going through there and it's calculating all those. And all right, so just about done. We're doing this to a thumb drive, so that's where that's going to town at. Okay, we'll click close, and there's our sheets, and we'll turn that one off, and that we'll go ahead and turn all our tool paths off. Turn them all off so that we can look back at what we're doing here. That's our next sheet. And there's that one. Clean. Honest. So now it's putting all that information from each one of those. And that's our sign. So that's what we wanted to happen there. And there we go there. So basically this is going to carve this out and cut this. All right, now that we've gotten that done, we're going to move on to the tool paths, and we're going to save these to our thumb drive, and we've recalculated them all, and they're all good. So we'll go down through there and recalculate them all, and then we'll save them to the thumb drive. Make sure everything's good, no errors, and it's just basically telling us that we're going to cut through on those. So everything calculated out just perfectly, and that's good to go. So now we need to just simply copy these to the save the tool paths to the thumb drive, and we'll be ready to go. I've cleaned up some of the clutter in here. At these S1, which are sheet 1s, they had all 5 of the tool paths in there. So the code text is unique to each sheet, and the code tab is unique to each sheet. The bit border and the holes and the cutout are all the same for each sheet. So I went through there and I cleaned out those 3. I'll go back over to that, and we'll click save, and we'll exit out of the program, and then I'll take this thumb drive to the CNC, and we'll cut this out, and we'll see how that all goes. First, before I do that, probably would be a good idea to just back that up. Got a lot of work involved with that. Just copy that, and then I put it up here into my desktop where my sharp folder is, and I'll paste it in there. Replace the files in there. So that gives me backup. I back up on the hard drive and also back up, use the thumb drive. And then I also keep the thumb drives, everything I cut, I put it into a cut folder. All right, when I was making this Ranger code using this plate production tool, I ran into so many signs with different code, different vectors and things that it got me a little bit confusing to have it on there. So I went ahead and separated each one of the sheets, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, so that the sign would have the necessary files. Now what I did was I did keep the original files that carved, like for the text and for the code, that would do the that. And then I combined the tool pass for the V-bit and then the tool pass for the end mill. So this would save probably about 3 or 4 minutes of checking time. All I'd have to do is do a bit change. So that was a plus to go through there and change all that. And I was able to go into Aspire, and when I did my tool pass, I just basically saved them to multiple tool pass to one file. So that made that easier. I was able to, of course, go back to using the bit border. I like to keep all my individual tool pass just in case something doesn't work out and I don't have to run the whole thing again. So from the profile and the holes, and then the V-bit border, and then in each one of these it has the the pocket for the code and the V carve for the code. So if I need to run any individual part of that, I can still run, but these combine it. So if everything goes right, I can just load it up, run the V-bit first, and run this, and that'll save me some time. So that's kind of what came up with that. And these signs are coming out just fine. Most of the time, this is our Ranger code, and I will basically be putting sealer coat over this, putting in some black dye in here, and these letters right here, and then I'll lightly sand it. So the sealer will try and keep it from bleeding. Whether or not it does it, we'll find out. And got little tabs in there. You can see it down in there. You've got to drill holes in there anyway. So I've got sign number 5 in there working right now. Ranger's alert, clean, honest, courageous, loyal, courteous, obedient, spiritual. Made these signs. They'll be outside. I'm going to spray them down with some Helmsman varnish, that green can over there, and use a little spray gun with my little compressor. And we'll put a coat of that on there, probably 2 coats, let them dry. Then I'll take a little bit of steel wool or maybe some sandpaper and lightly sand it smooth. These have a rough sawn. These are fence pickets that I got on sale, so I think they're going to hold up pretty good. They didn't really split out too good. They cut really clean. But anyway, after I get that done and hit it with the steel wool, I'll take the black acrylic paint, kind of like the art paint that you get, and a little brush, and I'll brush that in there on top of that, and then I'll clean it off with a mineral spirits, just wipe the face. That should leave the carved letters black, and that kind of a deal. So anyway, so these are an upgrade from the other ones. The other ones had external letters. They were older, and someone had carved out all of the letters, on a bandsaw or a scroll saw, and then had stuck it, but they were breaking. The letters were breaking because of, just storing them, and they would chip and break the letters off. So they were fixing those, and someone said something about Mark could do this, and so, yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of what I've done. So they're coming out nice, and be glad to get some finish on them and see what they do. All right, just in case I didn't get that last video, I'm putting a second coat on these signs. I'm spraying them down with Helmsman, and using a Harbor Freight 4 PSI. It doesn't use half as much as the other one does. I did glue this on there by mistake with the last finish. I can't get the lid off of it, so I'll probably soak that in some lacquer thinner, see if I can get it to break loose. And I did buy one of these. Menards sells this in the paint department. It's very similar to that. I will note that next time I use this, I'm going to put paste wax around that so that I don't have to, or Vaseline maybe, so I don't have to worry about it sticking, because it actually bound up with these this finish in there. So I was able to get it apart. I'm used to cleaning it up with lacquer thinner, acetone, and paint thinner. And so there you go there. And those have 2 nice wet coats on them. These have 2 nice wet coats. I'll let that dry, and then I'll see if I can paint that without it bleeding all over the place. So we'll be using acrylic paint. Okay, I tried, I put 2 coats of Helmsman spar varnish over this and let them dry for like a day and a half. Then I tried using some just black dye, like on leather dye, and it still was bleeding, and the dye bleeds real bad. And I thought, well, I'm still gonna have to sand it if I did it. So I experimented a little bit and tried wiping it with denatured alcohol, and it was still just a little bit messed up, and it was oh, I don't know, it was just slow, real slow. So I thought, the heck with it, if I'm gonna have to sand it or do something, I'll just use some spray paint. So then I used some of the Walmart spray can finish that's made for plastics and stuff and wood, and it's like twice the coverage. And what I did is I took this and I went over this with a wet rag of mineral spirits just to cover the face so that it wouldn't be real conducive to sticking anything. And then I shot this with black spray paint, that 3M, or not 3M, but the black spray paint with just 2 times the coverage. And I did that, and then I went from the other direction, and I hit it, so I got good coverage on it. And then immediately I put the cone away, and I took a towel, or just a wet rag that's got mineral spirit in it. I wiped it all off, and then I took another towel that had mineral spirits, and I wiped that off a little bit. And that gave me this kind of an antique look. And I think it came out really good. I'm going to coat the back sides of it with the mineral spirits so that I have the sign totally coated, or not mineral spirits, but the spar varnish, the Helmsman. So I'll spray the back of them, and then I'll take some of this cord and put it down in here and put me a deal for that. And then I'm going to take a box and make a box very similar to that one down there that will house all of them. And I got a piece of plywood to make that out of. So I'll make a box that's 7.5 inches on the inside and 24 inches wide or tall. So 7.5 by 7.5, and then I'll put a little hinge on it so that'll store all those and give it a nice home, so when they're not in use, they don't get all beat up and banged around. So there it is, and that came out pretty good. They're real clear. That's kind of an antique look. Makes them kind of look like maybe they had. So that finish worked out really well, and so there you go. These are the original signs, and I don't know how they are. They've been around for a while, and as you can see, the letters are stuck out there. So they fixed 2 or 3 of them with some 1/2-inch board, and they look fine. So I didn't want to tear them apart. I was thinking about just reusing the board, but I just made new ones, and I'll put paracord up here for that. Anyway, I didn't want to tear up what somebody made many years ago. It's kind of an antique thing, so that might be cool wall decoration.